Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. My name is Monsignor Walt Noland. My guest today is a very, very special young man that I've known for a long time and admire him, even when he was a younger fella. Josue Arriola. Josue is the director of the Department Youth, Marriage, and Family Life for the Diocese of Trenton. He recently joined the diocese after serving 8 years as the Associate Director of Evangelization for the Diocese of Metuchen. Josue earned a master's degree in theology from Augustine Institute in Denver, Colorado. He also studied pastoral ministry at Georgian Court University in Lakewood, New Jersey, and pastoral Hispanic leadership at Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. That's a lot for a great young man. Josue is married to Brenda, has 2 sons, Joshua, 10, and Anthony, 7. They're parishioners at St. Anthony of Padua Church in Hightstown, where Josue was a volunteer in youth and Hispanic ministry. Josue was also a volunteer when I was pastor at St. Paul's in Princeton. That's how come I know him so well and admire him so much. Welcome, Josue. So
Thank
great
you,
to see you, and I'm delighted to see how your path has grown so well. It's amazing and beautiful, and I knew way back then that you'd be doing wonderful things for the church and for your family and family church. Maybe we could start by I told the folks a lot about your education and all. What about yourself? And where'd you grow up, and how'd you get that great smile of yours?
That comes from my mom, my dad.
Okay.
Monsignor, I grew up, I was lucky enough to grow up in a small village in Guatemala. For me, that was the beginning of everything that it's happening in my life. It's a town that every month celebrates a saint. A saint, it could be any saint. I don't remember all the saints, but every month they have a big celebration, especially for Advent and for Lent. All the processions they go through in front of your house and all that environment. So
The food you eat.
exactly, the food and all the traditions that they have. At that time, we were 98% probably Catholic on that town. So you breathe that Catholic church in there. So I think that's the beginning of everything that it has come to be part of my life. You were just saying, I knew that you were gonna get to this path since I met you. I didn't know that. You probably saw something that I didn't see on myself, but I know that was a big part of my life, especially like in the town that I grew up. So
Isn't that a beautiful way to grow up, though? I mean, to be part of traditions, family traditions, church traditions.
definitely.
And I hope more and more we get back to some of that, and more we realize just how beautiful it is and how it binds us together, not just as the nuclear family, but it binds us together as a family of God. I mean, we feel that we're brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
And we root for each other.
And the beautiful thing in there was every house that you visit, they have images of our Blessed Mother. They were praying. Every place we went to visit, my neighbors, they always talk about God. So now things are changing, but at that time, like I said, I was lucky enough to be part of surrounding with people that they love the Lord, and that I think they put the seed in my life since then. Even though I grew up without my parents were on this country. Well, I was with my mother, my grandmother, but I had the support of the neighbors. I had the support of my friends. They all went to mass, so they took me with them. They all went to pray the rosary, so they took me with them. So that was part of my journey since I was in Guatemala.
Now it's your turn
Exactly.
to bring others. So I can see how the good Lord just embedded in your heart and your soul. I think in fact, maybe even when I knew you when you were younger, you did some web design. I'm trying to think of my mind now. I think you might have even done something for myself and put a little web together or something.
Web pages, and for me that was the dream job to have, especially when I came to this country. One of my goals to come to this country was to make money, and at that time, the web was one of the biggest thing around that time. It was something new that was coming up, so I wanted to start learning that. And then I went to school and I started to learn how to do the web design and the web developer. It's what happens behind the scenes. And then I was lucky enough to have a wonderful teacher. And this teacher, this professor, he had a company where he, like, when I was taking classes with him, he took me to his company. And then he got another job, so he took me to another job. So I followed him all the way until New York City. When I was in New York City, that was the dream job to have, because you are in the center of communication. So for me, that was it. But when I got there, even though my dreams were kind of complete, I still have this sadness of my life, this emptiness. And yeah, I was a web designer. My dream was there, and I was there already, but something was missing in my life. So I started to search for it, especially when I started to see that the other guys who were already in New York City for years, and they were not happy. They didn't spend time with their families. And the goal, I don't know if you know, Monsignor, but the goal in New York City is to make enough money and then spend time with your family. But one of the guys in there, he was about to retire. He came to me and he said, Josue, in 2 months I will be retiring. I have enough money. He said, I have an apartment in Jersey City. I have an apartment in Manhattan. I have a mansion he was from Ireland. I have money in the bank, but Josue, I don't have a family. He said, on the process of making money, I lost my family. Mm. He looked at me and he said, don't get trapped on that trap.
Wow.
Because he said, enough money is a word but what's enough?
How much is enough?
Exactly. At that moment, not only I was not satisfied of being there, but also hearing that from that guy who was about to retire, that made me think so much.
So that was a real grace moment, Holy Spirit moment in a sense.
Definitely.
And I hope you thank God for the advice of that gentleman, because you can't, there's some things in life you can't buy.
Exactly.
You can't buy love, and you can't buy family, so to speak, you know. So that's, I can see how God kind of directed you. So then how did you begin that? How did you make that change? What did you do to kind of go onto the path of what you're doing now?
It's, like I said, I came, if I could summarize, I came to this country with 2 goals. One is to make money. The second one is to make more money. and after being on the city, after being surrounded with people with a lot of money, the last thing that I had was happiness. I thought that money could buy happiness, but when I got there, it wasn't. And I started to like in my personal life, I started to go deep in a dark hole and kind of depression moment. And I didn't know what to do. I tried to follow everything to be happy. Everything, the list of the culture. It says, okay, if you're happy, you need to have this type of car. I tried to get it. I was not happy. You need to get this type of girlfriend, and I tried to get it, and I'm still not happy. So I didn't know what to do. And the problem is that if I keep on doing the list of the culture, instead of helping me, it was making me more problems. Many of the times I was in court because of driving tickets, and so it was a difficult moment. So I didn't know what to do until I remember the words of my grandmother. When you're in a difficult moment, pray, pray. At that time, even though I was growing in a Catholic culture, I didn't believe that really God listened to prayers. So, I didn't know what to do, so I decided to finally pray. I said, okay, I'm going to pray just to remove the words of my grandma from my head. So I remember that day I went into my knees and started praying. But I was 100% convinced that God didn't listen to prayer. So I prayed, I said, okay, that's done. What's next? But for my surprise, a week later, that prayer was heard. And I started to see the things in my life the things that I was praying, now they were happening. So that's when I started to realize that, wait, this is kind of real. Like, is he really listening to prayers? So I said, okay, if he's doing this for me, I have to do something for him. The first thing that I wanted to do is to go to Mass for the first time in many years. And because I knew Princeton, I decided to go to St. Paul. So I remember I was sitting on the back pew of that church. And I know that Father Javier was the priest at that moment, but I don't remember what he was preaching about. I don't remember anything. I just remember that through the whole Mass, I was praying, how can I pay you back? How can I pay you back? You're doing all these wonderful things to my life. How can I pay you back? At the end of Mass, Damian, a young man from St. Paul's, he stood up, he was giving the announcements, and he said, on the announcement, he said, we need lectors, we need CCD teachers, and he started giving us all this list of the need. So I said, okay, Lord, you're calling me here. So Mass ended. I waited for everybody to get out. And I started to walk on the middle aisle. And when I started to walk, it was a sister there, Sister Gloria. I don't know if you remember, Monsignor. So she was close to the altar. And when she looked at me, she started smiling. And she started opening her arms. And I was walking, and I look at her. And I look back, I said, is it for me? I don't know this lady. But I keep on walking, and it was for me. When she saw me, she gave me a big hug, and she's, son, how are you? And I was like, taken back. I was like, sister, I'm doing well. She said, how can I help you? And I said, sister, I heard that you need CCD teachers, you need this. She's like, yeah. She said, do you want to help us? I said, yes, sister. She's like, great, but not so fast. I have to train you. You have to be trained, at least for 1 year. And for me, it's like, if that's the beginning, sister, great, I'll do it. So I started going with her. She was teaching RCIA. So I started to go to RCIA with her. After 6 months being with her, she said, I want you to come to the place where I live, because I have other sisters. Over the weekend, we come to parishes, and during the week, we're together. I want you to meet the other sisters. So great. So she gave me a date. It was a Wednesday around 2 o'clock. She used to live on the convent next to the cathedral. Mm-hmm. So I went, I knocked the door. She was waiting for me. She's like, come on. So she took me to the 3rd floor. That's where they used to live. And then she started introducing me to everybody. So this is Sister Socorro, Sister Micaela, She started introducing me to everybody. And then she held my hand. She's like, come on. And she brought me inside of a room. I didn't know it was a chapel. So she took me in there. She put me in front of the tabernacle, the Blessed Sacrament. And he said, Josue, this is Jesus, the one that I've been teaching you all the 6 months. And then she turned and she said, Jesus, this is Josue, the one that I've been praying for all the 6 months. On that moment, Monsignor, things started to happen to me. I started feeling for the first time the presence of God in my life. I started to experience His love. He didn't care what I did before. That He just loved me. Sister left me with Jesus on that moment. I don't know for how long, but I cried, and for I don't know, an hour and a half. Later on, she came back and she picked me up, and then I finished the year with her. But that moment, I realized that this is real. That God is really real. He's not a fairy tale that happened a long time, that He's still, it's alive. And even though I was growing in this beautiful town, for me, everything was so cultural. It was part of something, but not really something real until that moment. So my life started to change on that.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story, and a blessing. I know we see how God just touches our lives. So from there, you went to study and ended up doing some work, I think, in evangelization.
Yeah.
And what was that all about?
God is great, because so I started to run a youth group in Princeton, because Father Javier, he was doing, at that time it was, I think it's Renew 2000, it's a booklet that he was doing. So there were a lot of people coming to the class that he was teaching. But after the book ended, he said, okay, that's it, the book is finished. And I asked him, but Father, there are so many young people here. He said, if you want to do something, go ahead, you take over. So that's when I started to do the youth group in Princeton. So my desire of doing ministry, it was there, and then that's when I was still working in New York. And I knew that doing ministry was fulfilling something that having money was not fulfilling. So on that moment when that gentleman told me about don't get trapped on that trap, that's when I started to make the decision. I said, I need to see what can I do? How can I start working in the church? So I decided to look around, to look what's out there. And I had some training at that time because everything that the diocese was providing, all the programs or everything that they were providing, I was taking it. That's when I went to Washington, D.C. to take any classes because I wanted to really know more about it. So I started to go to Georgian Court to take some theology classes. And that's when I look into the Diocese of Metuchen, and I realized that they were looking for some bilingual. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it was something bilingual. And I said, I speak Spanish, I speak English, so I go for it. I didn't know that it was for evangelization. Until I got there, I realized that it was for the Office of Evangelization, and that's when I started to learn more about evangelization.
And that evangelization, which is really the beautiful story of God's love, redemption, and sacrifice and resurrection. And now you've taken all of that and apply it as Director of Youth, Marriage, and Family Life in the Diocese of Trenton. Tell me about that kind of work and ministry and what attracted you to that, and because we're blessed to have you.
No, I'm so happy to be here, Monsignor. When I was working with youth ministry, one of my problems was that I was doing everything I could to bring the kids to know Jesus Christ, because the way that I know it, so I want them to know Jesus Christ that way. So I was doing basketball games, I did pizza, we brought them to retreat, we did talks, everything. And the fruit, it wasn't what we really wanted to have. So I knew that something was missing. When we started bringing the kids to a retreat, I remember the first time we took them to a 3-day retreat, something happened to the kids. They came back with the seal, with fire of Jesus Christ. So I knew that was a good thing, to bring them to a retreat. But the other thing that I also saw, that after being on the retreat, they came on fire, they were happy, they met the Lord, but 6 months later, all that fire started to diminish. So I didn't know what was wrong until I got to Metuchen. And I started to realize that evangelization is a process. And the process that the church teaches is that there is pre-evangelization, it's prepare the soil. And then there's a proclamation when we put the seed on the soil. And then there's the discipleship, when you water the plant until it grows. And that was the part that was missing when I was doing youth ministry. I did the pre-evangelization, I did the proclamation when we brought them to the retreat, but the follow-up, we were missing on the follow-up. So in there, I started to realize that, okay, it's a process. It's pre-evangelization, and then proclamation, discipleship, and then apostleship. With that vision, we started to work with families. And this is what I'm bringing to Trenton.
So that's your role now in Trenton, and as director of that position.
Yes.
What areas and services does your department cover? In other words, do you have a plan now to reach out to? Because that encompasses a lot. Marriage, family, youth.
Everything. For me, it's because evangelization also covers everything. So for me, it's nothing new. It's now that I'm in the Department of Youth, Marriage, and Family Life. It's the same thing when I was doing evangelization, because it covers, even though it doesn't say probably in there, but we covers beyond baptism. So from baptism, what happened? That's also part of our department. Beyond baptism, what is it that we do with those little kids and with those young families? And also it comes youth ministry, and then young adults, and then marriage. And then on marriage, we start working on those families, young families. They're having just little babies, or families with teenagers, or families who have kids who are already in college. So we cover that whole scope. So right now it's just to see what we have and how we implement the process of evangelization to each stage of their lives. So that's the challenge. And I think evangelization will help us go through that and help them. Because the mission of our department, the mission is love. It's because love is not something, it's someone. It's Jesus Christ.
So your mission is to bring the Word of God, not just in the head, but into the hearts of from the time that these families are being formed all the way through. How do you have some practical ideas or some practical ways that you put this mission of yours to work in professional life and personal life?
In the personal life, that's when it makes it real. We know that, like in my case, in my family, it's when we love somebody, is that I'm gonna die my own desires for the good of the other. And that's one thing that we have to learn. Sometimes, because the word love is used or misused so many ways, but love is, if we see the cross of Jesus Christ, that's real love. He gave his life for us. So our job, especially on my family, the thing that we do in my family is to see who we play games. And one of the games is who's the most kind person or in our family, my youngest. But just to let you know, my wife is the one who always beat us, especially when it's food.
Moms are always the kindest.
Yes. And also they give their lives for all of us. And and the beautiful thing is that my kids are looking at that. When we come from a park or we come from somewhere to the house, we all are hungry. And we want to eat right away. But mom, she also is hungry. But she dies her desire to eat right away to serve all of us. And she's the last person who sits and eats with us. And my kids sees that on their moms, on my wife, that she dies to serve us. So that's what we want to implement in our house. It said we need to die ourselves for the others. And that's the thing they also want to implement it on our department. Is to see that love is to, especially in families, is to because the culture now is all you. But the church and God wants us to die ourselves for the other. And I think that's what we want to accomplish on.
If we could only really not just say that, but live that.
Exactly.
I mean, that is the whole gospel of the Lord, and sometimes it's really to say, it's not about you, it's about others. And to realize, I guess, that every family and every parish certainly is missionary.
Exactly.
That we're to be missionaries of bringing God's love and peace and love and in our deeds as well as our thoughts and our ideas.
Exactly. And the other thing that I see in Monsignor is that when we do it, it's a joyful thing after you did it. Probably at the beginning when you want to do it, when I finish work, the last thing that I want to do is helping kids, or I just want to go and sleep and relax. But I know that I have to die that desire and to be with my kids, help my wife. But after the end of the day, you see that I'm glad that I did it. Oh, that reward is the joy that you feel. Probably you're physically tired, but the joy that you receive by doing it, it's priceless.
I believe that's the Holy Spirit that energizes us or re-energizes us. Yeah. I know, and I mentioned that your beautiful wife and children. You wear 2 rings.
Yes.
What's the story behind that?
Monsignor, how much time we have? It's incredible. When we were looking for rings with my fiance at that time, we went to a store and then we were looking for rings and we were like, oh, this is a beautiful ring. So we said, oh, we want to choose this one. So they told us, okay, come next week, it'll be ready. So the following week we got there, and when I tried it on, I realized that it looks good. I'm not into jewelry, but I had to wear it. And then when I took it off, I realized that on the ring, it's my ring, but it has my wife's name on it. So I said to the guy, I'm sorry, you made a mistake. This is my ring and it has my future wife's name. And then he looked at me, he's like, I can tell that this is the first time you got married because that's the way that it has to be done. Your ring has to have your wife's ring. And her ring has to have your name. So I said, okay. And then I went to talk to Father Javier and I said, Father Javier, how come my ring has to have my wife's ring? He said, because her happiness is in your hands. Your job as husband is to make her happy. If she makes you happy or not, that's her role. But your job is to make her happy. So I can't make her happy by myself. I need the power of Jesus Christ. So when I knew about that, I got another ring where it has the cross of Jesus Christ and the Our Father, the prayer of Our Father. And I say, Lord, I can't make her happy by myself. I need you to make her happy. So Monsignor, if you see my wife, if she's happy, it's Jesus' fault. If she's not happy, it's my fault, okay? Because happiness, it comes through Jesus Christ. If she's happy, it's because God is doing something good in me, through her, through me,
That's,
through her.
that's the whole notion of the covenant of marriage in the Trinity. I always said it's one, other, each other, yet another. And that's how, the love of Christ, it just comes right through, that kind of love.
Yes.
It's a beautiful story, and I hope tons and tons of people have heard that story. Tell me a little bit, what's the most important tool in your ministry? What do you feel is the essence of it?
The essence for me is the Blessed Sacrament.
Mm-hmm.
That was the beginning of all this journey. And for me, that will be the end of my journey too. It's to spend time with the Blessed Sacrament. I mean, the Holy Eucharist, and that's where I get all my strength. There are days they're not easy, but after I go to Mass or after I spend time with Him, I know that it's not my mission, it's His mission, and He's just bringing me to be part of His mission, and that's where the biggest tool for me is God Himself. He's the one.
What's that vision that you're throwing out there now, Jose?
The vision, it's for me, the goal of the vision of our department should be the same vision that the churches have. Now we live in a beautiful moment where there's so many good things that are happening. One of the Synod of Families that is happening, the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia. There's so many things that are happening, and to give us the vision of the church. So my vision is the vision of the church. Right now sometimes we do things on the old model where we think that families now is mom, dad, and kids. But now we live in a different culture, a different society that sometimes it's mom and kids, and sometimes it's kids and dad, or mom is dating, and then the kids are with.
So we have a great gift of God, but a great field, almost like a new continent or a new love that God's given us in so many ways, and we're grateful for someone like yourself, Josue. Please, listen, love, learn, leave a legacy. That's always a great way to think of how our life should be. Bless you. Pray with us. Grow with us. God bless. That was beautiful. Thank you, Josue.
Thank you, Monsignor. Thank you.